Is that enough to have a successful and satisfactory practice?
Did I pay enough attention in my clinical posting and internship to learn something worthwhile? Or was I too invested in getting a PGC?
What do I do next? Do I repeat? Can I afford a one-year drop?
Is doing post-graduation really worth the time and effort?
So, look forward to today's panel discussion, which hopes to give all the confused MBBS students an answer to their dilemma.
Good afternoon to one and all present here, and welcome to the panel discussion. MBBS qualified, ready for practice?
Our panelists for today are dr.supe sir, former Dean of St. J.S. Medical College in Civil Hospital, Dean and Director of Medical Education in Major Hospital Hospital for Greater Noida. I would like to invite you all guys. Our second panelist for today is Dr. M.V.L.Kothari sir, Director, Department of Radiology, Dr.M.V.L.Kothari Hospital. He was formerly Professor and Head, Department of Radiology, King Hospital. Our third panelist for today is Dr. Shah sir, MD General Medicine, who practices as a consulting physician at Critical Hospital in Juhus, Mumbai. He is also a trivia buff and a passionate teacher of medicine. Our fourth panelist for today is Dr. Vinita Salvi ma'am, gynecologist at the Seven Hills Hospital. She is the former professor and HOD at the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, King Hospital. She also has an M.Phil in Sports Science.
Our final panelist for today is Dr. Mayur. He recently finished his internship from KM Hospital. He joined the search organization as a medical officer and currently works from their mobile medical unit, which is situated in Gadchiroli. Our esteemed moderator for today is Dr. Y.V. Chavan sir, Associate Professor at the Department of PSM, KM Hospital, and Treasurer and Vice President of Hiking, GSMC Gymkhana.
I hereby request Dr. Y.V. Chavan sir to continue the session from here.
Thank you so much to the organizers of Ascension for putting me in this spot of having stalwarts with me. Basically taking the previous speaker's ending remarks very seriously, which in this particular program now only I can take seriously because I will be asking questions. I have some picture in my mind where to take this or direct this discussion as it goes on. Wherein, let me start with the youngest member of the panel, who seems to be popular among the students, doing the search organization, running an NGO, helping run that NGO when I think he was in his third MBBS, second MBBS, right, Mayur? Let me start by asking that when you are finishing your internship, do you have something like fear of the unknown? Are you pressed by the idea that PG is compulsory? Fear of unknown, PG being compulsory? And does all this mean that with an MBBS degree, you are a nobody? Please, Mayur.
Okay, hi everyone. So fear of unknown, I think I love that unknown. I recently read a book which focuses on uncertainty in medicine. So which has also helped me reflect back on how uncertain our life is. Another thing is, like, I was never pressed by the peer pressure that was built around during the internship, whether preparing for PG or doing your internship. Because I think a lot of students, all of them are actually forced by their parents and their peers to follow the same path which is actually made by our seniors. Go for PG, super PG, join a medical college or start their own practice. And I felt like that was not challenging for me. I felt going beyond this journey and having an adventurous life by doing something like the previous speaker said, thinking the unthinkable, which actually excites me every moment of my life. So that is what inspired me to go beyond the path of, let's say, the rat race that we call today and make a difference in today's world.
So you mean to say, if you are thinking, am I audible? You mean to say, if you are thinking out of the box, thinking beyond what you are being taught, what you are learning over here, is a good way to step into life after internship? Are you saying that? Is it a good way?
I think the challenge today is totally different. The challenges that we have, I think the moment someone figures out the why of his existence, he can totally figure out how he can achieve that why. So I think the challenges that today the world faces with respect to medicine or healthcare is totally different from what we are studying here. We are studying here in a tertiary care setup at the undergraduate level, but the need of the community is totally different. So I think going out of the box and thinking differently does make sense to me.
So you mean you have ways and means very clear as to how you have learned to practice giving injections or using a tongue depressor? Have you? How do you do that? The practical, simple ways of working with patients. Giving injections, using the tongue depressor to look at the throat. How do you practice that in your MBBS student career?
So during our MBBS curriculum, we actually do that. During our, let's say, tongue depressor, user tongue depressor is usually done in ENT postings. So either we observe it, and sometimes when we are, the will inside us actually makes us to learn things during our internship or during our UG postings. So there are basic things. The only thing is like the will to learn rather than someone willing to teach us makes a lot of difference here.
Thank you so much, Mayur. We'll come back with some more questions to you later on. May I ask Tushar sir, the present UG teaching, is it better in some way than it was in the past, maybe 20 years back, with respect to, for example, students being able to attend emergencies, being able to handle emergency cases? Like we had this example, Elphiston Bridge, yesterday's bridge is fresh. Do you think the UG teaching does equip us with doing this?
I'm not fully qualified to answer that question because I'm not currently associated with academic institutions, but how I remember my undergraduate teaching, which is about 30 years back, is that probably we had more hands-on experience in OPDs and wards than today's students have, because today's students are also occupied with taking classes, dams or whatever you have, and that probably keeps them away at least a couple of days or 3 days a week to other things. So that way I think there is less hands-on experience in the wards, but I am sure some of you might disagree with that. I don't know what percentage of people do classes which keep them away from wards. Significant percentage?
80%.
80% do classes, okay. So I think, yeah, in that sense we were better placed, but we were worse off in the other sense that we did not have the access to literature as much as you have, simply because there's so much internet, so much YouTube that you can access to get, and I access it today and I find I wish I had this in my time. So yeah, there's a major difference between the two.
to realize that experienced and senior person does have information about dams. When I first came to know that a mass bunk of some lecture was because of something called as dams, I wanted to investigate what is this. This was about 4 or 5 years back, and I think dams has been going on since 10-15 years. And sir, the percentage of attendance goes to 1%, 2%, even in a subject like PhD. So, you are saying it is students presently are fortunate that dams or net education is available?
No, I did not say dams. Dams, I'm quite sure, is not very conducive to the future of the child. But internet definitely. I'm extremely happy that this generation has access to the net, to YouTube videos, because then you have access to so many countries, so many forums. So that I am sure they can take great advantage of. Dams is because it is exam oriented, probably NEET oriented, which is something that I would always be against, something that is purely exam oriented. As most of our seniors would agree that we know that exams should not become the focus.
I just wanted to add that as a clinician, as a teacher here, I found that ward attendance was dropping when I left. But I don't think it's fair to blame the students. If you're going to judge them on their performance in MCQs, then obviously they're going to attend classes where they're going to improve their performance and get their PT set. Though we all know that does not contribute to becoming a good doctor.
Thank you, madam, for giving your maybe what I can call experience with ward attendance going down. Sir, you mentioned net. That same net is available to patients. Net educated patients. I would want you to let us know if that is also a challenge to practitioners. How does one handle if you are experienced with what happens with a net educated patient?
I don't know whether we are diverting from the main theme, which is should a doctor be an MBBS and stay there. I'll very briefly say that I use reverse psychology when it comes to Googling your diseases. I tell the patient to Google the disease. I give them the links that they should the searching words that they should enter, and let them experience the complexity of the disease. That's what I do, so that they don't feel I'm hiding anything, and the net will tell them more than I tell them. But yeah, I just come to this one point very quickly, because as these people want to know whether MBBS is enough or not. One thing I really want to stress upon is that if money is not the only focus, if service is also part of your focus, then definitely you can stay at MBBS, train yourself in multiple specialties. What I would do is do an MBBS, work with a specialist private practitioner in neurology for 3 months, in hepatology for 3 months, in nephrology for 3 months, spend 2 years educating myself more and become a family physician. Not only there is a great requirement for a family physician, but there is a great respect in being a good family physician. So if respect more than money is your ultimate desire, if service more than money is your ultimate desire, if mental balance more than bank balance is your ultimate desire, maybe you can do that.
Thank you very much, sir. We have our students being near to someone like Dr. Abhay, and therefore their attitude of wanting to measure success through service also, I think, is alive, and students are ready to go towards that. Your point on being ready to do apprenticeship and gain experience is well taken. May I ask the next, Ravi sir? I have been working in a major private hospital. There is a tendency known that not the major ones, but the smaller hospitals do have a tendency to have Ayush qualified people working with them as registrars. Is there something like the Ayush are better in some way than the MBBS qualified person? Why does this window of doing registrarship in hospitals get closed to MBBS people? Any reasons? Thank you.
Am I audible? No.
Now? Okay. First of all, I'm not qualified to answer the question. Simply that I don't come in contact with such students. I'm not even aware that in our hospital it has. I'm not working in a hospital which does that. Yeah? So I can't answer that question at all.
So, I don't know. I will expect anybody else, or maybe, sir, can you think of reasons why? Because that is a fact where smaller hospitals do Ayush register.
Maybe, but I want to go back to that previous question.
Sir, please.
I'm one generation ahead of Supe and maybe Vinita Salvi, and even today on Teachers' Day, I wish 3 or 4 teachers. 1971 to 2017 is a long time. I still I get emotional. I think it's all about teachers, it's not about students. If teachers can inspire students, they will attend lectures, they will attend ward rounds, and they will do emergencies. I remember that night in 1972 when Dr. Abhay Shah taught us how to put on gloves. How many of you have been taught how to wear gloves on your first emergency? I feel most of the blame, excuse me for saying this, is with teachers. Teachers have to lead by example, they have to inspire students, and if you do your MBBS well, which means you do your OPDs well, you attend the calls well, the emergencies well, and the most difficult part, you are sincere in internship. The amount of stuff that I learned in internship is quite simply amazing. And that you can't do because you're caught up in the system, which makes you go to tuition classes. I have a nephew who does this, right? In internship. I think that is the biggest tragedy of modern medicine in our country today. People in positions of power in this hall should stop that from happening. I don't know how you do that, Supe. That tuition class business in internship is a complete unmitigated disaster. I feel in sum up, there is very little to blame. They don't attend classes because the classes are not worth attending. You are having a PowerPoint death here. Teachers are reading your PowerPoint slide. There is no comparison between the quality of teachers we had and the quality of teachers we have now by and large. I mean not teach, but teachers who will inspire. You look at Manu Kothari, if you have seen his videos, you will sit through his class even if it is 10 hours long. We had that quality of teachers. So I feel basically summing up the whole thing is that if you do your MBBS well, the way it is meant to be, and if teachers teach you the way they are supposed to teach, you will be more or less qualified when you finish MBBS. Otherwise, you are still practicing. After 35 years of radiology, I come across a chest room I have never seen before. So that never ends. The quest to learn never ends. But it's about doing your MBBS well. You're doing your internship well, but you are all caught up in the system which you can't help. You didn't create. You are in the whirlpool and you're going down and patients are suffering.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't see many teachers in the audience, but students are there, and I suppose they will or they should find a way to pass this message that you have said, that there have got to be teachers who lead by example.
You should ask Dr. Supe about that. He is a leader in medicine.
Sir, I am coming to sir. I am just gradually coming to it. May I then ask you, sir, like for example, radiology specifically, if I can go to there, is a small part of the medicine subject that is taught. Do we in radiology teach the basics and not the syndromes and the hi-fi cases, CT, MRI reading in the UG, for the UG students?
It very much depends on why students do radiology. And each time for about 40 years I've been asking them first day, first show, why do you want to do radiology? And various answers are there, but unsaid is that radiology is aram ka subject, no calls, and radiology is a lot of money. So it's up to us again as teachers to change that attitude, to make radiology patient oriented, basics, complete basics. And I did a survey and most people said conventional radiology is dying because there is no glamour and there is no money in conventional radiology. So all of them, even if all of them do radiology, they will do CT and MR, not even ultrasound, because there is more glamour and there is no money, more money in that. That's a trend that's very difficult to change now. But as you can, to an extent, you can make them think of patients, not just images. That's my tagline. Patients, not just images. I mean, it's a difficult job, but we have to do it.
Thank you, sir. Yes. May I, if you are not in touch, let you know that radiology is the first preference now, which we had ortho and pediatrics. Radiology is taken up as first preference for the reasons that, sir, you mentioned very truly. And I interacted with one of my radiology friends who is practicing. He practices only ultrasound, and his remark was, "Arey YB, PCPNDT ke karan USG jinda hai. Otherwise USG is going to die." And as we know, there is recently an app that has come up in the US where you can do personal, as an individual you can do your own USG. Thank you very much, sir. May I then now ask Salvi madam about I think we will all agree, ops and gynec in our country can be the most important subject with population explosion and all the RCH programs and reproductive tract national programs, etc., etc. With the law, the act saying that if you conduct 25 MTPs with a practitioner, you qualify to do MTPs. You are a person who qualified to do MTPs. In that, our country also faces the problem of gender discrimination with MTPs. Madam, you think the UG teaching can help with this? Be competing with practitioners who have assisted 25 MTPs, contraception being the commonest thing, the UG person, is the MBBS qualified person going to be able to do this?
See, what you said about 25 is just a criterion laid down by the government as a part of the protocol. But if you are looking at the MBBS degree just now, I think there's really nothing wrong with the degree. All through the ages, this degree has been, the syllabus has been changing, things have been evolving. It's the system that is sometimes rotten, but I think basically per se MBBS is good enough. If we really pay, like I said, it's what we have to, I agree with what Mayur said earlier, that actually what we need is community medicine, whereas here we are producing doctors from tertiary care institutions. So this country actually needs 70% general practitioners, 20% specialists, maybe 10% super specialists. Whereas what are the aspirations of the individual? Here we are balancing the needs of the country against individuals who have struggled in all the entrance exams. They are not going to be satisfied with just an MBBS. They would probably want to be doing a post-graduation. And I see people desperately taking any branch, whether they like it or not, because of PG, MD, MS hona chahiye, naam ke samne. Probably we should be introducing MD family practice the way we have in certain countries abroad, and then we'll satisfy the needs of this country. I think that 25 MTPs is just something that is laid down as a criteria. But actually speaking, just like a BEd civil engineer cannot just get out and start building a building, similarly an MBBS graduate cannot just get out and do MTPs. He has to work with someone to learn practice.
Thank you very much. That I think we are coming down to, since Madam has mentioned the teaching curriculum and what our country needs, we are coming to the academician Supe sir. Sir, you have worked with the MET cell as the regional center in our college. you have been trying to improve the skills through this MET cell. How is this exactly planned and what happens and what are the actual aims and objectives of this MET teaching for teachers?
I think the question, what exactly you want to say, what do teachers learn out of these skills?
Yeah, what are the aims and objectives of MET?
I think it's a very simple thing. Most of the teachers are never trained into teaching principles. They become teachers by observing their teachers. So I think if you realize that a teacher who has just passed as MS when he becomes a lecturer, he always takes principles what his teacher does. If his teacher was good, then automatically he starts teaching good things. But if his teacher is not good, he will not really teach that well. And the whole concept of educational principles is that if he has educational principles, techniques he learns, then his knowledge and skills will be broadened, and probably he will be able to identify the students' needs and then provide them what they really need, rather than just injecting the knowledge what he has. And that is what has been the experience of most of the people, and therefore, if you make every teacher aware of it's like, it's a little tricky thing, but I will tell you that how many of you, when you are an MBBS student, can stand on this podium and give a talk for 15 minutes? You have to learn public speaking. Now, whether you learn, many times people say, I am a born public speaker. But everybody is not a born public speaker. There are people who have worked on that. And then when you are becoming a public speaker, you have to really learn that art. You may go to formal class, you may learn with somebody. But if you observe and learn, it takes longer time. By experiential learning always takes longer time. When you intervene and then you give a training, people learn it faster. It's not that teachers' training is going to change their personality. It's probably only them making them aware that these are the methods by which you can deliver your education better. And that is all is the effort actually. It's a huge effort. And I feel that has made a lot of change all over the world. And I think the medical education technology has now become a faculty for all over the world. And I think it is picking up over years, last 20 years. Initially, I know when you start doing it, I remember many people when came to teachers are not going to change, why are you trying to teach us, does it really make any difference? But over a period of time, you see people using interactive methods. It's like somebody is taught, I think he is able to deliver better. At least he will 10 times think to do something which is wrong. And we have about 1 lakh teachers in Mumbai, India. We have been able to make about 43,000 teachers little aware, half of them. But 57% we still have not been able to really touch. So it's a big canvas. And clinicians I know are one of the worst people to really come. And that is the biggest challenge we have to really click. How do you really enter into clinicians' domain? And there are many clinicians, surgeons, I am a surgeon, but surgeons are very erratic. And the way they really behave in OT, and then they throw instruments, and all dramas, we are dramabaz surgeons. But if you really look, students still learn. I'm not saying students don't learn, but they can make the whole experience more fruitful and much more better. I don't want to tell, but some of the specialties, gynec and all, I think the first year student in the resident goes through a horrific experience. And it's not really necessary. You can make the whole entry more peaceful. Look at all over India, gynec experience is a horrible experience. And the same students, a postgrad student, when they become senior, they behave, in the same way. It's a pathetic thing. I think, Sasu Bahu, actually Sasu Bahu. I think what we are missing the whole point in this whole panel is that what is ailing today medical education in India? I think that is what is the crux of this. All of our students are extremely brilliant students, intelligent students. They have taken medicine with a hope that I will become a better living or I will become a better. So is that the only reason? As you said, the money beyond, some of them also think. They think for giving social service, helping patients, giving a little more satisfaction. Now all that nobility, we feel little worried today because the way government has really pushed in the number of students. You know how many students are there today in MBS training? 62,000. 62,000 students. Now some medical colleges have gone down, so about 59,000. We have currently 499 medical colleges. Functionals 472. It's such a huge canvas. Now 62,000 students are pumped into medical college, medicine every year. That means in 10 years, we will be creating 6 lakh students, plus 6 lakh Ayush students, 12 lakh students. Currently, we have about 9 to 10 lakh MBBS doctors and 6 to 7 lakh Ayush students. So we have about 15-16 lakh students. And in next 10 years, we will have, even if you say 3 lakhs go down, you will have about 12 plus 12, 24 lakhs. That means makes our ratio, and the population is not growing so fast. And population is going to grow till 20, around 50, and after 50 it is going to go down. Now in that scenario, a city like Mumbai, 2024, when people will move out because of the metros and all, the population of and the, if you really look the ratio of doctors to physicians and the family is going to be very low. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, low means 1:250, 1:300.
We say it's going to improve.
Improve.
Yeah.
But improve means dirty competition will improve. And as she has already said that we are trying to build up super specialty and specialty. Will there have enough workload for them? That means what has happened to the cardiology? Look at cardiology. Sir is cardiovascular surgeon. Cardiovascular surgeon and cardiology market has become extremely tight today. That is because we are pumping 1200 cardiovascular surgeons in the system every year across India. 1200. And it is not really necessary, so many. I mean, even if half the seats go vacant, pushing about 500 cardiovascular surgeons, is there enough work for cardiovascular surgeons? I mean, look at the areas, if you look at, look at our paper, we had published in 2012, what is the PG seats need into the country and how many seats we have. We don't have that balance. Now, if you are creating so many people, they will have a dirty competition. In 10 years, you will find the current competition will be more fierce. There are no new diseases coming, unless pollution and the accidents are going to add to it. But I think we are going to have the same number. Cancer has not really grown. It is same. Heart attacks have slightly increased in percentage wise. Infection rates in children have come down. So that means the disease population has only slightly increased. The doctors have increased tremendously. So it leads to unethical practices and competition. That is the first canvas we should keep in our mind. The second point is your question of the panel. Are we really MBBS? Do you feel he is confident? I think it's a big issue. There is something called as an hyposchilia. I don't know, have you heard about it? There was a 2005, there was one paper from USA, and that fellow, he wrote that we are facing hyposchilia. What do you mean by hyposchilia? That a student who graduates and goes into practice for the first day finds himself lost. Whatever he has been trained doesn't get applied to his practice. When you are, I don't know how many of you really remember, you read one nice book, How Doctors Think, Krugman's book, Jerome Krugman, very nice book. And he describes a very nice experience of him being an intern on a first day and how he feels lost. I don't understand anything how to treat patient coming with a myocardial infarction. I'm not able to really treat him. Now, why this has happened? We are in a really a cross kind of a thing. I mean, let's look at MCQ based exams is the main crux of all this. And students don't understand that MCQ based exams are going to make them good doctors. And that is where the crux is. So students have to work twice. They have to become good doctors by going into clinical set, and they also have to learn MCQ. That means what? Your effort on MCQ is going to be less. which they don't want because it's competitive, and it's very fair that you are going to dance or any other things, so you have to go. So you have to cut down, bring flexibility to our curriculum. In fact, I was after NCI that we should bring a lot of flexibility. So if you really look at the approach, what is being taken, we have now developed a competency framework. We have defined what our students want to be. Now let them go any way they want to go.
Thank you so much for going on to the competency. That was my next question to you, sir. Please, I would say, what is it trying? The competency-based program, the MCI, what is it trying? How is it different? What difference is there in that? I went through that competency-based program for community medicine.
How many of you have gone through the MCI booklets and AdCom and all? Have you been to? No, nobody. Fine, go to the MCI website, these all are there, and from August 2019, the whole program will be rolled out, and that will, there are already 8 books, we are already prepared, and it will come in the next few months. What is competency? Do you know what our graduate wants to be at the end, what our product want to be?
To be able to do certain things.
Yes. So we never had defined the competency. So we have defined competency. We have given a pathway to them that this is where we want to go. How you go is very different, and everybody can achieve it by different methods. So the first thing is that we know what we want, and we have developed his capabilities. That is the first thing. So students know where to go. Now whether they go or not, it's a question of teachers. As Ravi said, it's a teacher's problem. Basic problem is with our teachers.
Yeah. So what sir had said, Ravi sir had said that we would want to have teachers who can inspire. So does this going to the competency-based program take us towards that? Can it?
Competency-based program will never become inspiring teachers or inspiring teachers. Competency program is a framework. The teachers are going to make you work. See, ultimately in a surgery like field, mentors are the most important people. Whatever you learn theory and practice, mentors have to be capable, ethical, they have to be demonstrative, inspiring, they have to be like that. I think you can write n number of books or read number of books, you don't become a good surgeon. So I think ultimately teacher who holds your hand and does it is somebody who is there. So competency program will only tell you this is what you have to go. Doesn't mean that unless you assess in that particular way, how do you know that? It's like, I can give you a recipe book. Isme itna namak dalo, itna ye dalo. Ultimately what product will come will depend on who makes it and how judgmental he is and how he really does it.
Talking about competencies and talking about all the things that they said about OBGYN. OBGYN has always had this competence thing that you have to attend 20 deliveries so that you become reasonably competent at conducting a normal delivery. So it's not as if it was not listed out, it has been listed out since donkey's years. But over the years, hardly any student comes in to attend the delivery. One of my registrars came and told me, Madam, last night emergency, not a single student turned up. So next day during the clinic, I asked the students, I said, Arey Baba, tum log train pe, when you go on a long journey, your name is written Dr. Salvi. So if there's a patient in the train, they'll call you. Doctor, please come and attend to this patient. What will you do? One of my students told me, I say I'm not that kind of doctor, I'm a PhD doctor. They were studying MCQs because that is what is going to get them ahead in life. Attending 10 deliveries is not going to get them ahead in life. So unless we change that whole perspective, we are never going to be able to achieve anything.
No, I think one important point is that we all years together have believed tea-bag approach. You know what is tea-bag approach in education? Like say you have a cup of water which is very boiling and you put a tea bag, you keep it for 2 minutes and you presume that the right concentration of tea is ready. Every time it doesn't happen. Just putting a student into a labor ward for 3 weeks and say that okay, you will be doing something doesn't mean that he will learn it. The whole competency document will ensure what you have to learn and you have to achieve. Just because he comes and blindly stands in our, many of our students do that. When you were students also, a batch of 25, about 15 are interested, 10 are enjoying themselves at the back. They are doing WhatsApp, they are doing all fun. Our time WhatsApp was not there. So we used to have different ways of really enjoying all that time. But they still are not involved into the whole system. So unless you are involved into education, you will never learn. So that's a problem with our education. We don't have one-to-one, so you can't ensure that. So that's the reason we have to have competency.
As long as they get their signatures at the end.
I think we should not be very rigid in education. The way MCI or PSM department is, we should go beyond that actually.
Ravi sir wants to.
Hello.
I want to address the students directly now. The fact that you people are sitting here means that you are different. Instead of being in the canteen or the boys' room or the hostel sleeping or whatever, see, it's a tradition. In my days, long ago, attending lectures was the done thing. There was no question of bunking. I do not remember bunking lectures. Attending deliveries was the done thing. You attended postmortem. So there was a tradition that these are the right things to do, or these are the only things to do. In your generation, the only thing to do is not attend lectures, bunk classes or whatever. I want all of you to be agents of change. There is a marble plaque on top of the library door. How many of you have read that? So that is by an all-time great father of medicine, modern medicine, called William Osler. And Dr.M.V.L.Kothari Kothari introduced me to him. I want all of you to read about William Osler. Give him half an hour on the internet. There is a William Osler, I think there is a website, and the Johns Hopkins Institution has a full detail on it. This is talking about inspiring. You go beyond your MCQs, ask yourself, why did you want to become a doctor? From 10-15 years back, I carried a camera around, we were doing a documentary on KEM. So there was a cameraman and there was a big queue of Vachulok standing outside the hostel, the ground floor office, waiting to pay fees. And most of them, whether they are from interior Maharashtra or godforsaken place in the country, they said, we want to become doctors because we want to help other human beings. That is the vision that you come with. And that completely changes into passing the NEET exam. There is something wrong that we are doing. I keep saying that it's not the fault of the students. The major fault is of the system and perhaps of the teacher. Go read William Osler today evening on your cell phones and see what he has said. Do you know that before William Osler, there were no medical schools attached to hospitals? You came to lectures and you read and you became a doctor. He was the first guy in the late 1880s who said that medical schools should be attached to hospitals, and that's how the Johns Hopkins institutions were formed. I'm talking about inspiring. Read about him, read about his quotation. There he says that it is more important to know about the patient who has the disease than the disease that the patient has. And there are ways of changing the whole system, and basically I want to tell you this. All of you with black hair here, change from not attending lectures to attending the lectures because that's the right thing to do, to attending deliveries because you learn a lot. I remember the deliveries that I saw long back, and postmortems. You will learn better in postmortems than any other book. I want you to do these things not because you have to do it, but because you want to do it. That's a huge difference, and that's all that I want to say.
Actually, there is a solution for this. I think when the NEET came, I was very positive about NEET. In fact, I wrote in British Medical Journal about how NEET can be a game changer. And if you really see, the quality of questions is most important. I think if you bring the clinically case-based questions like they are in USMLE, that would be the game changer into NEET. Because then that will help students to make answers based on their clinical experience and clinical judgment. Now, unfortunately, the way our country is, the first year NEET, they took Prometheus, that company which really does FMG, so the level of questions was very good. Next year, there was a leak into data by some engineers in Bihar, and the whole system got flopped, and then they went back to the routine NEET, which was typical questions of 1, 2, 3, 4 and length and all that questions, which we brought down the level of NEET to such a low level today. That means then people just sit on, Bhatia, the names and dams and all, which probably don't teach you what the clinical medicine is. And I think if the NEET can change and go back to the clinical based questions, which are patient based questions, I think it can still change the whole game and bring the balance between the competition and the science, clinical science. The second point, which is very important, is that our courts don't believe teachers. They feel all teachers and examiners are corrupt, and you only believe in the objective paper-based exams. The subjective judgment, which medicine has so much of uncertainty, medicine has so much of judgment, which is never tested. And that is what we are in this particular state. I mean, it's a question of, it's very easy to blame teachers saying that you were biased or something like that. And all over the world, if they can accept this subjective aspect, why we are not accepting that? And that was the biggest, these two problems have changed our education. And see, all this trouble has come since 2000 when the MHCET and NEET really came. When the marks of MBBS examinations were considered, I think there was still a lot of clinical learning was still there till 2000. In 2000 onwards, when MHCET came, and now 2013 or 14 when NEET has come, the whole approach has changed and students have become now more exam oriented. So they think that MBBS I will never be able to do practice effectively. So then you want to spend more time, postpone your decisions of clinical practice into 3 years more. After MS also, half of them they feel the same way. What to do, sir, after MS? Then they push themselves to super speciality. By the time they mature, and then they realize what to do, and then they go into practice. But by the time you realize the competition is so fierce, your field is so narrow, and then you start doing unethical practice. There's a very nice World Bank report in 2003, you should read, from Ahmedabad, how the practice has, and this kind of a narrow system has led to unethical practices. I think it's, everybody understands there is a problem, but the solution there is, but we are not following it. That's the problem.
Lot of efforts need to be put on to actually put in the solutions in place. There are solutions, we know what is happening. Before I ask Shah for his remarks, he has been waiting to want to speak for all the remarks that sir. Let me make the audience work. You are also supposed to ask questions. So please jot down questions that can be aimed at any of the panelists. Yes, Mayur. Yes, you will answer, but I think the question that I am asking will let you know that I also have this in mind. The internship period. Sir, all of them are mentioning, yes, internship period is golden. Nowadays, it is meant to prepare for NEET, isn't it? So, along with your remarks that you already have, please try and answer this also. What do you use the internship period for?
I think I'll connect the link what Dr.Supe sir said. Let me ask you one question, like starting from UG postings, right, from the higher strata, let's say the lecturers or professors, the first question when we interact with them, they ask us, what do you want to become? What do you want to take in future? It's MD medicine, surgery, why do you not? So the entire conversation revolves around the post-graduation. When you go to the residents also say the same thing. Coming back to my batchmates, they also say the same thing. Which field you want to pursue in your future? There is no conversation revolving around what kind of a person that you want to become in future, what kind of patients that you want to treat in future, and the patient in wholesome. So if you are able to visualize during our UG postings or internship that what is the kind of patients that you are going to deal with in future, plus the kind of practice or the need of the community. Today, the 68%, according to the recent census, says that 68% of India's population lives in rural India, which needs primary healthcare. The recent global burden of disease research says that the topmost 4 priority problems in the world can be addressed and preventive measures can be taken by general practitioners. And if we are able to empower MBBS students to address the same problem and address 68% of the population, I think we are going to go way beyond that. Coming back to the internship program, I'll also connect the link with the OBGY postings. MBBS graduate is supposed to perform deliveries after he graduates from the during the internship plus after internship. During the clinical terms also, UG. So I don't know, you are coming from different generation and I'm coming from different generation. So my recent experience says that I was unable to conduct normal deliveries during my internship. I was looking out actively for a chance to conduct a normal delivery, my first normal delivery. I was inside the labor room waiting to get that chance to conduct the normal delivery, and I get a call from the waiting room. Mayur, patient आया है, correction कर. So this was the normal conversation all around. I am talking about internship done in KEM. Be it with respect to OBGY, medicine, any subject, all the interns are supposed to do are blood collections, and no conversation is revolving around the primary healthcare which you are going to deliver after you pass out from the internship. I think the solution lies here, wherein the teachers and the residents take up ownership of visualizing that picture of a young medical graduate stepping out in the society to serve people, rather than going ahead to do post-graduation and how to prepare for MCQs.
I would add on to the clapping saying well said. Sir, I would like to ask Tushar sir, clinical skills is what we are looking at. Now, investigations are available, if we can compare to the past, are rampantly available now. Does that in any way hamper, like do then the mindset say, "Arey, investigation available, why am I trying to diagnose clinically?"
The answer is probably simple. Just give you an example. If a patient comes with epigastric pain and your clinical acumen is poor, you can order an endoscopy. But if the epigastric pain is myocardial infarction with a good history taken, you can order cardiac investigations. So investigation being there does not mean that you will order the right investigation without clinical skills. So clinical skills will be important, and that realization, of course, every student will get. We are seeing a lot of over investigation because of lack of clinical skills. So there is nothing to replace clinical skills, nothing at all that can replace, no investigation can replace clinical skills. So I think coming down to the crux of the debate again is that if you within yourselves discuss with the students, have you ever sat down? When you start a relationship with a boy or a girl, you probably sit down multiple times, talk about what is your future with the other person, and you will debate. Of course, they do that. They are very, very finicky about choosing the right partner. So you will do that with over multiple sessions and multiple dates and multiple things. Have you sat down to discuss your career future with your parents or with your friends and talked about what should happen, or is it just a herd mentality which is driving you towards NEET or MLE? And so I don't know. I think that is something that you have. But I like the fact that they are allowed to ask questions. So anybody has a question for a person like me who has no academic institutional attachment and is only in private practice? Anybody would like to know something from me?
Any of the students have a question for sir? Sir is directly asked you. Raise your hands. Yes.
So my name is Amit. I'm a final-year student, and I wanted to ask, as you are involved in teaching students outside in an innovative way, if you are finding out new ways in which students can learn effectively, have you thought about teaching teachers and how to teach about the innovative things that you have learned?
Sir does that in medical education technology, teaching teachers. My unconventional methods, whether I can teach teachers, if you're asking that, I would love to, and I don't know how to find takers for that kind of thing, but I would love to teach unconventional methodology of teaching if I could. It would be a great experience.
I think this about 3 months ago in Nagpur there was a national conference and I gave a keynote address about teaching beyond classrooms. I think that was my keynote address and I spoke on the whole concept of how you should take away students from keynote, digital, the newer concepts which have come. Now see what has happened that if you really go through the various, I don't know how many of you really visit the newer universities, Vanderbilt, Howard or John Hopkins, all of them have now sections for UGs which are outside the classrooms. And it has become a major component for students. And as Ravi rightly said, PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. See, we have killed our education by PowerPoints. In fact, we have to change our whole education concept beyond our classrooms. Now, as you said, we are trying to teach our teachers, but teachers are very rigid. They don't want to change the concepts. They still want to give that PowerPoint full last year's. Most of the students have previous year's PowerPoint. They have all notes and all, but still they want to give the same. We used to, when I was a student, we used to collect notes. I had about 200 pages, 200 notes. I mean, those 200 notebooks, that was there were no books that time, no PowerPoints, slides were very thick. We used to have the note, Lopa madam will laugh at this stage, but there was professors of physiology and anatomy, we used to have their previous batches notes completely there. And we also knew now this teacher is going to crack joke on this particular line. So, we had complete access in the non-digital. I'm sure Vinita knows about all this. So we used to have those notes written, were so rigid. So I think students now know knowledge so easily, I think so. There is no need of really giving them. They can do self-directed learning, they can go digitally, they can learn. I don't know how many students take that effort. But the teacher has to innovatively see how the concept goes down, how the practice is being done, how his skills are developed. Is he reaching to that point of judgment or not? I think that is the role of teacher has changed and the students' needs have changed. And that is the reason we have to change ourselves, which is not happening. And that awareness is more important for everybody that yes, students don't need now these kind of PowerPoint lectures. They don't need the 1, 2, 3. They can always read somewhere. They need now concepts. They need the wisdom and not knowledge. And that's where I think we need to change the whole concept. And teachers have to deliver it in a different way. And that is the need of the hour. Yes, sir, you have.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Since I'm cut off from the academic world for many years now, I just want to know all these things that is ailing the education is because of the very poor ratio of teachers to students. Because there is one teacher and some in clinical medicine, we used to go to the wards. When you go to ward 5, when there are 34 patients and about 2 or 3 teachers, 44 students walk into for their clinical practice. So can we not change and distribute all this? Because formerly we used to, or even now, KEM has many peripheral hospitals. There are 171 municipal dispensaries in Bombay, at least till the time when I saw, which are not being utilized for teaching. So can we not redistribute so that, like Ravi said at one time, that the teacher has to impress on the student, but with 44 or 20 people standing around, how can one person be impressing anybody else?
I think it's if you read the Vision 2015 report, secondary hospital exposure for 6 months is a very well-known written there. In fact, the new curriculum which is coming, GM, secondary hospital exposure, is a component of this. The problem is, sir, currently if you go to secondary hospitals, I don't know, have you visited recently, visit all of them, and you will realize there is no inspired or motivated teacher there.
I think we should.
That is where we have to develop that. So, It's not that when I was a director, we appointed 276 full-time doctors into peripheral hospitals. And we were planning to develop units there, which is already process has gone. So once those units will develop, then they will have, then that responsibility will be given. So the process is already on. But the motivation, forget about peripheral hospitals. Our teachers in our own hospitals all are not motivated. Half of them are involved into practice, half of them involved into other aspect conferences. So the education is not looked as a prime time. And see, it's a very interesting thing. I don't know how many of you have studied the UK and USA education. They have a system called as a track system. You know, like for example, there is a clinician who does only clinician. There is a clinical educator, clinical researcher. There is a research educator. So what they do is that 80% of time will be clinical and 20% will be education. But then that 20% time, he will devote to the education specifically. In our place, we only write 1 to 3. We talk about clinical, research. Education, we don't devote that much of time because the benefit of education is longer seen, not immediately seen. You know, and that is a problem, sir. The motivation is a problem. The teacher's motivation is a problem. Otherwise, there is no doubt.
Appointing people in the peripheral hospitals or in the dispensaries makes them feel that they are not. They could be all appointed in this institute and then rotated. We had suggested, I suspect we won't go into that at this.
No, linking, sir. Linking is there.
So one of the worst decisions which I personally feel is allowing full-timers practice outside, which has made the teaching even worse.
Yes.
It's very difficult to find the teacher, leave alone finding him
The
teaching.
worst thing actually. Yeah. And the teachers themselves taking classes is the second worst.
So there are very basic pathologies which we are not worrying about. We are talking about what else should be done and things like that.
It's not that. The systems are such that if, there was a proposal of stopping the practice of the full-timers, it was thrown away by politicians. They have so many their connections. I mean, the political system, you have to see how it is.
So coming back to your opinion, like recruiting full-timers in a tertiary setup, secondary setup, I think the requirement right now is learning of a medical graduate in a primary setup or a secondary setup. Like sir said, like there are many peripheral units where an undergraduate can learn about the basic cases. We doing our postings or internship here, we all see all the complicated cases referred from the primary and secondary setups. So I think taking UG students there in the periphery setups would work rather than recruiting or getting more teachers in a tertiary setup where it get more complicated.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the teacher is appointed in KM, but he takes students into the other center. Because if you have 200 students, I suppose intake at the moment. 180. Now, when we were taken in, we were 84 in the batch. The patient population which is meant to be taught for undergraduate has not changed, because MCI says you have to have 7 beds for one student. So cardiovascular surgery has got 40 beds, the kidney has got 40 beds. So the beds on paper have been shown, but these are not meant for undergraduate teaching. So we have to use Ghatkopar, Rajawadi Hospital or some other hospital where undergraduate teachable patient load is there. We cannot sit here and tell them pancreatic or duodenectomy or some such thing for undergraduates, which of course they like once in a way to stand and see a very, very big operation. But that's not something that is going to be undergraduate teaching. So we are not utilizing our peripheral. Why the peripheral dispensaries once in 15 days or something, students with their teacher. At one time we had a very small experiment. Each teacher or the junior teachers were given few number of students and he was called their guide, and those people were supposed to go to the guide for whatever other problems. In the sense, it's like mentorship. So that was working well, but then the number went on increasing so much that we didn't have enough people.
It ends up only in canteen parties, sir.
That's right. That's right.
May I give a small pointer that I think the idea that I think can work. There should be, you talk about full-timers, staying full-timers, not going to private practice. I am suggesting the reverse. Private practitioners should come into part-time teaching. And you will find so many. The problem is, bureaucracy does not allow that. I mean, for example, I have gone to KM Hospital Chief of Medicine and Dean, I have gone to Nayan Hospital Chief of Medicine and Dean, I have gone to Cooper Hospital Chief of Medicine and Dean, requesting them to allow me to teach the students for no cost, at whatever time the students want me, Sunday included, and everybody has shown me the red tape, and which is fine, which I don't see that will improve. It will not improve. But at the same time, if you have a tertiary center, a primary health care center, not a tertiary center, and you ask an MBBS GP who has 30 years of experience, who has MMC accreditation for teaching, which they have, to please come once a month to this tertiary center, to this primary health center, make the private practitioner a teacher rather than improve the
That's what I meant.
full-timer
That's
into
what I
this.
meant. But they should be attached to the college.
No! Why are you so rigid about being attached to a college?
So that there can be a system of distributing.
That system is bureaucracy.
Distributing.
No, that system is bureaucracy. The private person has to take up an initiative. There has to be a private organization which takes up initiative. We'll arrange everything. You don't expect bureaucracy to arrange anything here. You have to expect private. That's how public partnership can work here in the teaching mode. Everybody here accepts that teaching is a problem. And there are private people who are willing to teach but won't be allowed in bureaucracy, or they will have to become full-timers in bureaucracy, which they hate. I would hate to become a physician attached full-time to KM Hospital.
There can be a graded system. You have a teacher, everybody is taken full-time, they work 5 years as teachers, after 5 years they can go out. Or they work 10 years, then they can go out. 15 years, 20 years, and then they will be given attachment. Those who work full-time for 20, 25 years will be attached to the main hospital. Those who are willing to go 20 years and then outside, they will go to the peripheral hospitals. 15 years people will go for practice outside, but will be allowed to continue. What I am trying to say is, the whole system, now first thing is we have increased a large amount of people so that there are doctors. I think this is exactly what the government wants. If there is a big crowd in this, then we will go outside. I mean, in my own village, there was not a single MBBS doctor. In 1962, one doctor Luktuke from here came, who was MBBS, he was considered the greatest of the consultants in that entire zone. Now, today, there are MS general surgeons, MD physicians, MD pediatricians, ICUs and everything. This has worked to a large extent because we have crowded the city so much that people are made to go outside. Also, outsides are improving to a certain extent. It's not that there is television, there is the internet and everything in those places. So that's what is going to work.
Thank you very much, Tushar sir, for giving us this out-of-the-box thought, at least. And I would ask Supe sir to direct us how this can be.
Yeah, I have clear thoughts on this.
Yeah.
The countries like Ceylon, Thailand, you go in their health system. They have changed that way. They take the primary physicians, and they, even Australia, New Zealand to some extent, they have designated primary physicians and they teach them. In our country, sorry about Dr. Tushar, I mean, you did not get into reticulism. Our problem is commitment from these kind of primary physicians. First thing is, in our Mumbai, if you send some primary physicians, then most of the clinics are very small. You can't really take 10 students, even if you say one. We don't know the quality of teaching. We don't know what is their conflict of interest. Thirdly, we don't know how much of the cut practice they will learn. So, if you really think the general practitioners are also not very clean. And what is their quality of learning? How many of them really contribute to the learning? They have a very, I mean, the way kind of general, I mean, sorry, my wife is also family physician. She does it for 36 years, 38 years to be very frank. But there is no uniformity into the quality of the family physicians. So if there are committed people who are ready to be into the system and trained and they are ready to monitor, I think the system has definitely a hope. And that can be done. But there is commitment is very few. I mean, only people like, well, I've not seen more than 3 or 4 people who would like to really come to the system as a primary system. So the issue here is that our whole country wants everybody to have a secondary and tertiary level care. Mumbai wants a quaternary care from our hospitals and free. And how can it really work? I mean, we cannot really go on giving free service to everyone, and that's what has really killed our system. For example, a fever can be treated by a general practitioner, MD physician, super specialist also. Now, why do everybody wants to go to super specialist to treat a fever? Why can't a general practitioner treat a fever? That will bring the cost of the health down. But we have created our media in such a way that tomorrow anything happens, immediately the general practitioner will be asked, why did you not refer that patient to the super specialist?
So
why not CT was done?
And the courts also.
And everybody asks that way. That is the problem of our country. Look at Ceylon, look at Bangladesh. Bangladesh, whatever their country may be, look at their health system. We trying to train, you know, how many of you read pharmacy? How many WHO has essential drugs? Somewhere around 400. You know how many formulations India has? 70 to 80,000. And all these are junk, half of them. You know, to be very frank, half of them are junk. And they are not worth giving it. So that's whole pharmacy market is running. They are feeding money to the doctors and everybody, and the whole system is a junk. I mean, why can't we stop all that?
Can I ask Dr. Supe a question? You said earlier that NEET needs to be redesigned, and obviously most of us here would agree. But who is in a position of power to change that NEET?
There is the board and DNB board who is to conduct NEET. And I think one of my, Bipin was in charge of that, the director of Bipin, when I think he has come here and spoken so many times that time. And unfortunately, as I said, he was a good educationist and he brought really good changes that time. And he had designed the NEET in 2015. It was one of the best NEETs, I think, 14 or 15. I had then also gone to supervise one center and all. That time the quality of exams were also good. The questions were very clinically oriented. But as I said, in 15 or 16, there was a leak of that system. And there was some questions, somebody got that leak. And therefore they stopped it again. And now the new board has come. They want to go slow. You know, in our place, if some scam happens, then next day everybody will go back to the system. And everything stands still, no decision is taken in the system at national level or any level. So the in-between batches suffer. See, you may be talking with all this, but look at the system, you know, it's like when you go a little higher level, you realize that if a scam comes, everything stops. Nothing happens. Then these batches may be individual batches which have suffered, but actually, long run, that needs to change, redesign it. And that will happen. It's not that it will happen. But in our country, a good pathway, because of the scam, gets derailed 20 years behind.
Madam, there is waiting for asking a question for long. Yes.
I wanted to ask a question which would be directed to both Dr. Tushar Shah and Mayur. I'm aware, Dr. Tushar, that you are taking, classes and teaching few hundreds of the general practitioners in the city. And they are coming on their own. I mean, there is no reason or exam waiting for them or anything. What are the most common reasons that they want to get educated again, in spite of being 20 years in practice? And the same question to you, are they, after he answers, whether you will be able to say, what are the gaps that you are facing after your MBBS education when you are now entering into a community-based practice?
So I teach MBBS practitioners who are already into practice. The range of age is 40 to 80. That's how old they are, and there are hundreds of them. And of course, they are being taught free. Their motivation of coming is simply that the way we teach changes our practice immediately. The way we teach is very practical, very basic, from cough, cold, fever to malaria, typhoid. We don't discuss rare disorders, and you know how upgradation is important and how everything changes. We have to unlearn a lot of things that we have learned 20 years back and now learn new things. And that is what we aim to do. We teach them. They find it very fulfilling because their practice changes for the better. The feedback from the patient changes immediately. Their earnings improve tremendously. They don't need to be corrupt to be earning more because inefficient people obviously become corrupt because they don't earn, they are inefficient and they have lesser patients, so they refer, etc. They don't need to refer, the referrals go down. So yeah, so they come for their benefit, and that benefit also percolates down to their patients. That's why they come.
I think the gap starts at the basics, what Dr. Tushar sir mentioned, they start teaching from the very basics, cough, cold, fever and malaria. Our UG postings are revolving around the medicine wards, surgery wards, which are having not basic cases. The first time I went into general OPD was during my internship. I think UG should be posted in GOPDs rather than in the medicine department for a much longer period so that they learn basics there and then move on to, because whatever we are learning in medicine wards or surgery wards is not at all going to help once we enter into community service after MBBS. That is going to be helpful after we do PG or come into super specialty practice. So that is the gap I feel is the most urging at the priority.
I think my worry about, these kind of trainings are necessary and they are done, that is the best thing. My worry is most of the IMAs or many other organizations, they do CMEs. And in those CMEs, if you really see, many of these CMEs are marketed. That means I give you a slot, you give me 50,000 to IMA and all that kind of thing, and then it is sponsored by the hospitals and all. So that, you never learn anything through those CMEs, and the MMC gives also credit to it. Actually, the whole thing should be custom-based, patient-based CMEs, case-based CMEs, and it should be practical CMEs as I rightly said. Now, if you look at around 100 programs in Mumbai that they take place as CMEs, hardly 2 or 3 where you would really learn like this. Most of them are market issues. Number is a problem,
I'm coming back to the exam system. Because the advanced diseases are asked at the level of final MBBS, students are not learning the basics. So leave aside the subjective part and being objective, but even what is assessed is not what is required for majority of patients. So where do we draw a line in terms of exam, what should be asked and what cannot be asked?
Madam, I think the solution is that way simple, blueprinting. You do blueprinting of an examination paper, you really look at, there are so many examples I can give you. I think JPGM had published so many papers from Dr. Anantkrishnan. He had analyzed the Madras Medical College, Madras University papers, and he had said very clearly that in a surgical examination, if the 30% patients come to me with anorectal diseases like piles, fistulas and fissure, and then he analyzed 5 years papers and he found out that only 5 mark question was there in 5 years on piles. Now, why this has happened? Because the teacher was interested in hereditary disease and lump and all that kind of thing. Now, how do you really change that? So, there is a method of doing it. So, when somebody analyzes a question paper, he is setting a question paper, he has to sit down, do a blueprinting, he has to see what is the common things I want to have, what are the common problems I want to put in, and he put those questions accordingly. Now, if the examiner does not do this, and you want to maintain all secrecy, you can give only guidelines. Now, examiner feels, now some of the people who are asking this nodule as a full question, now that students get confused because of that.
So that is precisely I am asking, that when MCI has drawn up all this competency-based curriculum, has it drawn a line that beyond this it will not be asked at the level of final MBBS?
Madam, MCI is a giving guidelines. Examination is a university prerogative. You have to understand the structure very clearly. If MCI has given only guidelines, MCI is a recommendatory body, executive body is a university. Who gives you degree? University. University gives the degree, university should, why should a university teacher not change? Who is stopping him to do it? MCI doesn't stop him, National Board doesn't stop him, Ministry doesn't stop him. He has to change.
So, but then have all universities, academic boards drawn a guideline that up to this only it should be asked, which includes, mind you, in practical examination, both the
Madam, there are audit committees. If you see, all universities have audit committees. If tomorrow a student questions, there is an audit committee who sits and you answer that. And they have, the examiners have to answer. And these processes are quite rigid. Unfortunately, you will find that the teachers many times are interested in asking these odd questions. And students are interested in answering those questions. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know the 20th cause which she doesn't know. And therefore I get advantage. We don't want all this nonsense. We want the 3 common causes which are causing the cough, right?
Sir, I think what Madam is wanting to say is who pressurizes, who can pressurize the teachers for
Universities. Guidelines of MCI are very clear. I think what is important is that universities have the academic boards, examination board, examiners themselves have to understand this responsibility. If examiners don't understand, universities only can tighten the screws.
But what is happening in the practical exams, the students are hurt doubly. One, those things, examiners have their own biases, prejudice, approach, wanting to be this and that. And secondly, then they ask something in which they are specialized, which a final MBBS student is not supposed to know. So, their line has to be drawn, whichever body has to do, and that's why I'm asking, where do we go?
Lopa, but for final MBBS, when we were examining, I asked students to wear gloves. They said we are not allowed in the operation theatre.
I think you
so
have
what can we do? I mean,
No, sir.
A simple question, how to...
Sir, I think you should see the world how it has gone. I think, have you gone through milestones, concepts and EPAs and all? Have you gone through all that, madam? No, I must explain you this, all of you, because if you are going for international education or national education, this is going to come today. In 2003, ACGME, that is American College of Thing, realized that, madam, please sit down, it's uncomfortable for me. Okay, so they realized that there is a hyposcalia and there is a chaos like this. They don't know how to really do this. So they created these competency kind of networks. Okay? The CanMed created that way, US created, Australian created, India created, everybody created this. They realized this does not work. Therefore, you have to put down what is called as a milestone concept. There are 126 documents which are there onto the website today. Each specialty today has put down every ability at what level, what should be really asked, is well written down today. That means today, if I want to know what my residents know about this topic, at what level he has to know, that is all written down. That first year he should do this, second year he should know about this, third year he should know it, fourth year he should know this. Now, first year he should know only knowledge, second year he should know the judgment behind this, third year he should be able to handle the cases. They have built European EPAs on this. Everything is so, you should really see the document. 126 documents, pediatric document is 177 pages. Every small aspect has been written down. Question is, documents can be created. Who is going to follow them? Yes, so who is to do it? I mean, the question is, you are blaming one person. Okay, MCI chairman should do it. How can they do it? Education is a group responsibility, man. It's a university responsibility. It's a parallel pillar structure. It's not an individual structure. The country has to really understand that this is a need. The teacher has to understand that my student has to learn this way. So I will teach him that way. You can't, a blame game is very easy, madam. I can blame MC, I can blame university, I can say Dean is not doing anything. That anyway, he doesn't do much. So I have to realize this.
I think as sir you mentioned that the students sitting here are all brilliant students. Plus, we all know that the system is to be blamed currently. But can we go beyond the system? I'm pretty sure the competitive exams when they came into picture was the only way to get students into post-graduation. But right now, is that competition between me and my fellow batchmates to get that seat? Or is it the competition or the collaborative work that we have to do to improve the healthcare system? I think the conversation revolves around the principle that each medical student must have in his life that yes, the healthcare is in crisis currently and we all need general practitioners currently. But the system doesn't allow us to practice generally because the entire conversation or the culture that is into picture right now is totally different. General practitioners do not, or MBBS graduates do not feel worthy of themselves to practice medicine or practice general practice. So can we go beyond and all these brilliant students can come up with a solution that let's not fight against each other. The PG entrances have created a fight against each other to get that seat. Why cannot we come together and imagine a bigger picture wherein the healthcare system can be improved around this state of the country?
Here I think we are in such a state that we are pulling leg of each other, who is sitting next to me, and practice. Usko utna patient gaya, mere ko nahi gaya. I have to market more. That level we are. Secondly, we are, you know all those tricks which hostel used to do. Some of our students, when I was in the lobby, one student used to keep his light on whole night just to give impression to others that wo raat bhar pad raha hai. And others are getting psyched out. So all that tricks people have been playing in the college, but that doesn't mean competition is going to die. When the prime seats are less, I think the competition is, and with so much of reservations and all, the student is really in a corner. He is not in a good position today and he is confused. He is really tense. Sometimes they always feel ki, what is going to happen to me? I mean, if you talk to these students, most of them don't know or don't want to talk about this. Because, you said, Tushar, very rightly, but I don't want to, it's like don't want to discuss this and get depressed, that is what many people would do it. But actually, we also know that it's a problem ahead. But we'll cross the bridge when it comes. Rather than, you can prepare yourself better, but then there is so much of uncertainty in the system that we cannot, even how much you are prepared, you're not necessarily going to jump into this. So for a good cause, yes. How many people give away their... See, success parameters have changed. How many people give up their job to work into the rural areas? How many people don't want to have a nice mobile? Let's look at all these issues. They are all necessities of life. These have become... you have to really change the way people think and the status. But it's a very different issue.
One question to the audience here. Anybody here who wants to finish MBBS and not go forward? Can you please stand up and tell us what do you plan?
I've spoken about this to a lot of my friends and I've thought, why is PG necessary? Even in these lectures, this point was discussed here also, if a normal headache can be cured by a MBBS practitioner, why is super speciality needed? I'm of the same opinion, but in general discussion with friends or with family, when you get into med school, the first question they ask is, what kind of speciality do you want to go in? Nobody here even considers now general MBBS as an option, because I don't know what are the basic reasons for that, but even when I spoke to my friends about that, I don't think I will want to do PG after this. They're like, if there is scope ही नहीं है,
I'd love to meet you later.
Yes, you already have one fan here, but let us all clap for her for at least speaking out.
I hope you stuck to this and don't change over to super speciality later on.
No, exactly. So when I came here, I was like, I hadn't decided anything. But everybody used to ask me, literally I'm in first MBBS right now, and many people have plans of their PG also. People are deciding your second year में dams, bhartiya, ये सब. मतलब everybody has decided in their mind that PG is a necessity.
Pathway is clear, huh? Pathway has a clear thought they have, most of them. In the first MBBS they have thoughts.
Sir, with your permission, all of you seniors here, can we ask her name?
No.
No? Thank you.
Yeah, what's your name? And
So Purvash,
you're in the first MBBS. She would like to meet you after this. I would like to meet you after your third MBBS.
Thank you so much. Sit down, please.
Good thoughts at this time. Just maintain them till 4.5 years.
If the teachers allow.
So I think all the seniors here, if a first MBBS student is coming up with such thoughts, I think that thought dies down after entering third year, final year.
The system kills it.
System kills it. So can we also take a step forward to empower such students to let that thought not die during the entire curriculum?
I think that's a good thing. Especially, I must tell you my story of my wife. My wife was my classmate. We used to sit here. Both of us graduated same time, and I'm sure Vinita knows about it. And then when it came to post-graduation, she was also having fantastic marks, and we used to get anything I could have get. But she was very smart. She said, I don't want to do this post-graduation, I want to start general practice. So I told her, why do you want to start? Take some specialty which is not very... So she got actually skin registration. And she was getting medicine, but she took skin. She did all the posts and for doing that registration. And then she did not do that and she went into private practice. And now for the 39 years, she is very happy. But she had a complete clarity of passion. She did her HCGP like him also. She does a lot of social work, gets involved into many other aspects about it. But that was a vision in the third MBBS, which I don't think today many people would have it. And I personally feel why it happens, because if 99% students from your class are thinking about specialty and super specialty, you feel little odd out. Now, as your question is, how do you support this 1%? Does our system support it? No. Why? Because we are all super specialist teachers. We all have seen, we have all discussions at a very high level. We are talking about CT, PET, MRIs. We are not talking about basic things in this college. So that particular students get changed, the mind gets changed over a period of time. So if she has that, yes, your question is very right. We need to have that kind of an atmosphere or support system developed in our group. Now look at model of Vellore. Very interesting model. Vellore or Sevagram model. There are two important models. How do they really support this system of people who want to do their primary kind of care? They really take these people and put them into these kind of places, make them work into this, and their curriculum is accepted that they took term into primary care. And it is considered to be an alternative term for some kind of intermedicine. Now, if we can do it, yes, no doubt about that. But as I said, no, that's what actually we have been fighting with NCR, that you should make this kind of training flexible. Don't be so rigid. Optional kind of electives and optional training and all that kind of thing. Now, the new curriculum has 2 months of electives. Now, somebody can take a primary care and work with some general practitioners who is qualified and recorded or that kind of thing. He can work into primary health care. So then, her interest will be developed and she will maintain that interest. But the system currently does not allow it, does not support it. There is the environment is very poor. So your question is absolutely on the right. We need to promote this. But it's a joint effort.
How it is going to come from a super specialist working at a institution?
How
it is going to come?
No, it is in the new curriculum, it is there. But it will not be implemented because the super specialist is not going to think that.
Thank you very much, sir. We are going to come towards closing down this program. There is still 10 minutes. And I'm sorry we may not be able to provide time for you because I am wanting to close it down in a different way. Sir, yes, we will, if time permits, Madam permits, we will, Pranav permits, we will do it that way. Sir, in this program of Ascension for the Humanities Chair, we are looking at kind of putting in a different thing or attitude in the students' minds. I would put this, since I know you people, to Supe sir, to Vinita madam and Ravi sir, you all have had interest besides medicine. Ravi sir, if I am not wrong, you were responsible for bringing up the IT specialty, IT cell of KM. You worked very hard putting it together. Supe sir is into photography and trekking. Vinita madam went into, after being a gynecologist, doing sports medicine. I would ask all of you to give these remarks as to why, besides Tushar sir, I'm sorry, I'm not knowing him, but as madam tells, I would want all of you to give 2 minutes into telling our students as to why this is pursued, or what do you think, why does it help you all? Thank you.
Yeah, it's true that I was involved in so many things. I was not involved in radiology. The team still supported me, so the IT and all that is okay. But I feel very strongly that all students should have two things. One is an outdoor sport. I used to play basketball. The posts that you see were created by our batch in 73 or something. And I play with trains. You come to my house, there is a room full of trains running on here. And
thank you for bringing it up. Madam reminded me that you are interested in model trains.
Yeah, I mean, it's not toy trains, it's model trains. You call it toy trains, is sacrilege. But more than anything else is teachers. I mean, if you are teachers like Manu Kothari, Lopa Mehta sometimes, and Sunil Pandya, you will be what you will be. I mean, I owe everything to my teachers.
Thank you, sir.
I fully feel, do you have a chalking board here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, enough chalk. I always feel life should be looked into a 3-axial or beyond 3-axial field, you know. I mean, you have an x-axis where you look at health and wealth, how much of wealth you have learned and how much of wealth you have really done. The second axis is academics and awards versus how much you have got your hobbies, arts and travel. And third, z-axis, where you normally look at how much is your humanities and spirituality and family and friends, how much you have really looked. So normally you should really look at a balance of life, something like this. And there are a lot of vectors which go, honesty, character, charity and everything which really need to develop you as a character. Most of the people would develop their character like this or this, but we normally never try to develop holistically. So I think everybody as a student or as a doctor should try to develop your 3-dimensional, 3-axis development. And this is something which I thought is very important from the beginning of your life. You should be really impressed. Most of us either run after awards, academics, money, and we ignore sometimes your wealth, arts, hobbies, then spirituality, humanity. You know, I mean, maybe this was emphasized by teachers much earlier in my life. I think we had fantastic teachers who were cricketers, who were arts, drama, music, and humanities. So I think that all influence. So ultimately it comes down to your teachers, how they have influenced to achieve this balance. And if you have achieved this 3-axial balance with all vectors, I think you are a better human being. And that's what this humanity cell should try to do it. And that was the whole purpose of developing this humanity cell, with that purpose that we should have a 3-axial development rather than a uni-axial development.
So this is importance actually explained by Supe sir. we will want Sir, Tushar Sir and Salvi Madam to tell about their hobbies to us. Thank you.
Telling about hobbies is not important. What I think is important is each one of you should have a principal earning occupation and a principal non-earning passion. It is very important to keep one passion which is non-earning. Unfortunately, what happened with me is medicine earning. Then I started doing humor. Unfortunately, it started paying me, so that became earning. Immediately, I developed a passion for ghazals. I started learning, writing, anchoring, teaching ghazals. Unfortunately, became a ghazal program anchor, earning. Immediately started teaching, and this I have resolved will never be an earning profession or earning area for me. So you have to have one non-earning area, because that is the area which will give you the greatest fulfillment in life. Non-earning area. We are people who have earned well, so some people will think कि इसने तो सब कमा के बैठ गया है तो फर्क नहीं पड़ता, and you are hoping to earn good money to have a good life, but at the same time keep one track that goes which does not pay you.
Thank you, sir. As Salvi Madam puts across her words, I will request Tushar sir to think about one ghazal that can be appropriate to be said here. Thank you. Salvi Madam, you go on with your description. By that time, he can.
No, I would just dare to dream. Whatever you are passionate about it, whether it's your profession, whether it's your hobbies, but dare to dream and fight for it. If in the end you don't achieve it, it's fine. But it's at least that I've tried and tried and tried. And if I don't achieve it, it's fine. But I should be passionate and dare to dream about it. Why sports? Because there are a number of sportsmen in my family, and I was just not that good at sports, so I decided to do sports science. Another passion I would say was history. So we did the history of this college and hospital. Madam must be remembering, we went to Rajabai Tower, found all the photographs of all the founders. We went and found, Dr. Shirapti was the dean at that time. He found the grave with it at Shivli Cemetery, and Ravi and we went and photographed it there. I was so passionate about history that all these guys used to call me, instead of historical, hysterical. So, but dare to dream.
Dr. Vinita Salvi introduced to me hiking. I went to Himalayan trek only because of Dr. Vinita Salvi. I must really thank her. And photography was Dr. Bapat who gave his own camera to me and said that do photography. But I am happy that when I was supposed to go to Everest expedition in 1998, I went to Dean Madam, and Pradnya Pai Madam told me that no, Avinash, you cannot go. How can you go for 6 months and all? Then I caught YB, and YB went to the Everest expedition, and that was a successful expedition, I think so. So you must understand how it really works. So what I learned from her, I gave to him.
Thank you so much, sir, for this information, because the other day Harish Kapadia sir had come, and I decided I need to make the list of people who have been promoting hiking in this institute. So thank you, Vinita Salvi Madam's name is added to it.
No. When we first took Supe, it was to Mathiran, and when we reached Bombay Point, we were reading the literature on Bombay Point. I still remember Supe. From here you can see Bombay with naked eyes, and Supe promptly took off his specs.
Thank you so much. Now, Madam, do we have really time and need to have questions now from the audience, the students? There are 2 students eager. Yes, please. Only 2 questions, yeah. So there are only 2 actually. Thank you.
I think Dr. Ravi sir said no, and atmosphere is now like cheered up, and also in getting into a serious discussion would be against the atmosphere of the NLP. But anyway, I'm tempted to ask, so I should continue. So a lot of the conversations has revolved around MCQs in the past 2-3 days, and also on this panel. So like from students' point of view, and also who's been been sailing on the boat, preparing for PG, and also drawn to medical humanities at the same time. I feel that students feel a lot of incentivization in veering towards MCQs because they see MCQs as an instrument to get into PG or get into specialization. And whereas at the same time there have been enormous efforts promoting medical humanities and other like a bigger narrative of healthcare and a bigger picture. I don't. The medical students sort of don't feel an incentive to get drawn to these overall bigger theme. There's still most of the medical students from KM are still slogging in RR and library at this moment.
Your question is becoming a LAQ. Please come.
So, can we...
Ask two short questions.
Two short questions. Please come to the point and ask.
Yeah, so like incentivization is obviously immoral, but can we sort of incentivize students to get into, from them to divert into, like from MCQs into more bigger theme of medical humanities and all of that?
What incentives can be there is your question.
Yes.
So anybody can, what can be the incentives actually,
I'm
sir?
so angry that he's asking this question. Why do you need an incentive? In medicine, you're dealing with human beings, and so getting a bigger picture is natural. It's not medical textbooks. So you don't need to intensify. Being a doctor means dealing with human beings, and that is an integral part of your curriculum. So anything that promotes you in the liberal arts, music, science, drama, games, whatever, is something an integral part of the curriculum, and that is what the teachers have to promote. So it is not incentivization. Ask him. There is an attitude and communication module which is automatically there in the MCS curriculum now, 2 weeks or whatever. So what we are trying to say here, it is integral part of your being a doctor, and there are papers and papers which say that, for example, the US, you have 2 years of liberal arts before you become a doctor, right? So don't even think of incentivization. It is a part of being a doctor.
I think that if you see the new curriculum, humanities is part of the curriculum, and the sports is part of the curriculum. There are time slots which are given in that. The foundation course has humanities there. The broader pictures are electives have everything. So these are all, many of the things have been trying to be formalized. Probably what you said is very true. We don't need incentivization, but sometimes you feel that others are studying in library and I'm spending time here. Is that time I worth it or something? But remember, broader picture to get that makes you a better human being, which is ultimately the successful people. And every time people sitting on the first bench don't really become the leaders. The leaders are always those who are normally backbenchers and making noise, and those who do that. I think.
Just a short note on incentivization. During our time, if we represented the class in something, certain marks were added. Danger point, one boy decided to represent for swimming because nobody went in. He jumped into the pool, he didn't know swimming.
And this has happened in our college.
Yeah, it's happened.
I can give you examples.
So, I'll just add on to what everyone said. I think when we entered medicine, the first day of our college, we all were prepared that we are going to serve the society, we are going to treat patients. So I don't know how this entire question of incentivizing is coming from, but also the moment we pass MBBS and join a government setup or do our MOship, I guess we are getting paid 70,000+. I think that's I think is the greatest incentive that the government can give. With respect to that, and also the education that we get here is we are learning throughout the entire curriculum, plus we are learning from the patients. So entire thing is for the patients and the government.
And it is much cheaper than anywhere in the world.
Yes. So RIP incentives.
Next question, please.
So it's not a question, it's my just general views. Ravi sir, as you said, we are not taught how to wear gloves. And ma'am, when I was in my final year, I got an opportunity to do total hysterectomy under the guidance, and even the first years were not getting that opportunity. And I was lucky in NMM unit. So that is what I have been. And the first time when I did that procedure, even that cautery, just to burn that blood vessel was something which I can't express. I was literally crying, and that is what since 4.5 years I was asking myself, am I worth it? And that day I understood that this is what makes me feel good about this. So yes, I do agree with it, and even in my internship I was literally depressed because of a lot of stuff which was going on. People were my peers somewhere. Mayur is one of them, which makes me understand that no, emotion is also equal and it's a good thing to serve. But other than everyone was running behind the rat race. So I met Lopa ma'am, and she just asked me, she had just told me that it's not others, it's you who is gonna do something. And then I understood that it's not always running behind something. It's always you, what you want to do. And throughout my 5.5 years, I have been part of extracurricular activities like, I don't know, I have been in a lot of things, from being captain of the football team to the dramas to the decor team of Avishkar and lot of stuff. This has made me a person, and when I was hearing you all, I understood the meaning of what I have become as a doctor. So today thank you so much to you all that I understood the meaning. Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody. If I may finally request Tushar sir for the ghazal so that we can end our program.
4 line bolo sir.
4 lines.
2 lines. 2 lines.
No, just one share, it's a long ghazal, but just the first share is कि बदले हुए वक्त की देखो सोच कितनी न्यारी है, बदले हुए वक्त की देखो सोच कितनी न्यारी है, दिल का बड़ा होना अब डॉक्टर कहते हैं बीमारी है.
With that, shall we end? I think everybody has had a nice time listening and have learned a lot. Thank you so much, the panelists. We have an official memento to be given.
I would like to call upon Dr. Lopa Mehta ma'am to honor our panelists. Dr. sir.
We should first give a gift to the moderator.
Yes.
Why me? I'm not the oldest.
I accept I am the oldest. Yes.
That I am the senior most here.
Yes.
So on.
So is it?
Whatever order they have decided we follow.
No, thank you.
Dr. M.V.L.Kothari sir.
Politics way.
Dr. Tushar sir. Dr. Vinita Salvi ma'am. Dr. Mayur sir. And our moderator for today, Dr. U.V. sir.
Thank you. I'm good to run.
I'm going to have lunch here. I'm not eating.
Of course, we have everybody will have lunch.
Yes, I'm good.